Shalawam, and welcome back to The Hidden Chosen. I am Hadassah and I'm back with a brand new study called Who is Yahawah? This is part 1, and I'm doing this particular study because the last study was called Who is God? So it's only fitting that we look at our Allah Hayam because that's who we worship, and Allah Hayam is a title, by the way. So we're going to look at who Yahawah is. So Allah Hayam is a shared title between Ha'aba, the Son, and Ruach HaKodesh. So we're looking specifically at Yahawah to understand and to learn more about who He is. All right. In this study, we're going to look deeply at who Yahawah is, not just His name, which we have looked at before, but we want to know more about the essence of who He is. So I did a study some time ago looking at the name of Yahawah to show you why it is Yahawah and not Yahuwah or all the other pagan names that are given to Him, to the Most High. But today we're going to look at the essence of who He is. We're going to address a few subtopics like who is Allah Hayam Yahawah? What is the likeness of Yahawah? What is the character of Yahawah? How does Yahawah communicate with His people? And where does Yahawah dwell? Well, where He lives. Now, these are some big topics and we can't cover them in one study. That's why this is a part 1. We may have 3 studies connected to this particular study. All right. So the reason why we're doing this study is to learn all we can about Yahawah based on the scriptures and even the Apocrypha, because there are too many false teachings about who He is. You just start with the name. You don't need to go any further than that, because if you have the wrong name, then everything else behind it will be wrong. Okay? And based on these false teachings, people have fallen into pagan worship, believing that they are worshiping Him. People are also taking Him lightly, not fearing Him and respecting the fact that He has all power to destroy us forever. He has the power to destroy both our physical beings and our spiritual being. Meaning, He can cast us into the lake of fire. He has that power. The devils that are running this world, they can only destroy the flesh, the physical man. That's why we're not supposed to fear them. We are supposed to fear Him. All right? But when you don't know who you're dealing with, then you will not have respect unto Him. You see, the reason why people, let's use, for example, Christians. You have Christians that go to church every Sunday. Some of them are even involved in ministries. And their lifestyle does not reflect what is written down in the word of Allah Hayam. Their lifestyle is that of the people out there in the world, the secular world. I used to be in a church, so I know what I'm talking about. And yet, they have no problem whatsoever going up on the pulpit, preaching a message, singing their songs. And after they come down from there, then they carry on as in the exact same manner as the secular world. They're still secular. And the reason why they can do this without even feeling a pang of guilt or shame or embarrassment is because of who they worship. And that goes for all the other pagan gods that even our people worship. I was listening to a message last night by a brother, and he made some valid points. But then comes the curse words. And I'm talking about the S bomb. Some of them use the F bomb. And they would say, well, those words are not written in the Bible, so there's nothing wrong using that kind of language. He doesn't have to spell everything out for you to know that it is wrong. How can you, with those lips, calling on Him, praising Him, reading His word, and then release an F bomb or an S bomb? All right? Speaking, using bad language, curse words. Gotta be careful saying certain words on this platform, right? But you know what I'm talking about. They're swearing. And when you really dig deep, in fact, you don't even need to go too deep with these people. You just listen to who they're calling on. They don't feel convicted about how they present themselves, how they speak, what they do, their lifestyle. There are no convictions. All they do is justify themselves by saying, well, that's not written down in the law. The law never told me that I can't use these words. These are modern words. They're curse words. Whether they're modern or not, they're curse words. And this is why we have to be careful of who we're worshiping. Because if you're not worshiping the Most High, Yahawah, you're worshiping a pagan god. And that's why this behavior goes unchecked. And these people have more excuses than anybody else. That they can carry on however they want to carry on, do whatever they want to do. He knows my heart. I'm only human. All these excuses they make up. But they really don't know who they are dealing with. He is a fearsome actually is the better word. He is fearsome. And because we have not seen him using his judgments the way we see in the Bible, we think he's sleeping. But he is not to be messed with because he's recording everything that we do that we're not supposed to be doing. And everything that we say that we're not supposed to be saying. He's recording everything. He's recording when we are good and he's recording when we're not. Everything is documented by him. Nothing escapes him. And he's given us ample amount of rope until that rope runs out. Then he cuts us off. When we're cut off, we're doomed for destruction, utter destruction, eternal destruction. Our names will be blotted out of the Lamb's book of life. This is who we're messing with. And he is not to be messed with. When you know who he is, you will tremble. Masha, he said, I tremble. But he loved Yahawah. Our forefathers, when they're in the wilderness, they trembled too. But theirs was not out of reverence. Masha trembled in reverence. They trembled out of fear. Because they were pagan worshippers. All right, let's read on. We are going to start at the very beginning to learn that before him nothing was, meaning that nothing existed before him. How can you explain what happened before him? Because he was always there. He was always there. That's why Danayal calls him the Ancient of Days. He has no days really, but it's just an expression to show us that he existed even at the beginning. He is the beginning. It all started with him. Try to wrap your brain around that thought. Let's look at Bara'ashayath chapter 1. This is the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning, Allah Hayam created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And Rawak of Allah Hayam, meaning the spirit of Allah Hayam, moved upon the face of the waters. That's Rawak HaKadash. And Allah Hayam said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This is the beginning of creation. Allah Hayam is a plural title which includes Ha'aba, Haban, the sun, and Rawak HaKadash. They all share the same title, but they are three distinctive people. I know our people, our brethren, they get all tangled up thinking, oh, no. If we believe in Hamashiach, we are disobeying the law that says we should not have any other gods but Allah Hayam. He wasn't talking about his son. He was talking about the pagan gods. Hamashiach is not a pagan god. Jesus is a pagan god. Christ is a pagan god. Lord God is a pagan god. But Hamashiach is right there with Ha'aba, the Father. And he is not the Father either. He is not the Father. He is the Son. Right here in these verses, we see Yahawah and his Rawak named as Allah Hayam, and both worked to create the heavens and the earth. But we cannot dismiss Hamashiach just because his name or title Hamashiach is missing. His other title is Allah Hayam. So when you see that Allah Hayam there in the very beginning, Allah Hayam created the heavens and the earth. Masha here is saying that Allah Hayam Ha'aba, Allah Hayam Yahawah, Allah Hayam Yahawasha'o, Allah Hayam Rawak HaKadash. They were there in the very beginning, and they created the heavens and the earth. Don't let the devil get you in a tangle. It is quite easy. It is quite simple to believe this concept, this precept, because it is the truth. When you deny the Son, you will deny Ruach HaKadash. You're denying, there are people that are denying the New Testament exists because it speaks exclusively of Hamashiach. There's irrefutable proof there that he is the son of Allah. And he clearly states that, and he prays to the Father, Ha'aba. And he clearly states that I only do what my Father tells me to do. So if he is both Father and Son, what is he talking about? People need to read for themselves. And not just read the words on a page, but allow Ruach HaKadash to come and explain what you're reading. But the problem is, if you don't believe in the Son, you will not have his Ruach. He's told the disciples, I go to prepare a place for you. And he said, I am going, but I'm going to send a comforter. Rawak Ha'amath, the Spirit of truth, who is going to come and remind you of the things that I have taught you and to reveal new things to you. And I'm paraphrasing. And it is because people do not believe in Hamashiach, they do not have access to Rawak HaKadash, who is Rawak Ha'amath, the Spirit of truth. And if you're not in the truth, you are in deception, lies, and deception. And this is why they dismiss and they continue to dismiss Hamashiach even though the proof is right there before it. The proof is even inside the Old Testament as well. But they can't see it because wool has been pulled over their eyes and over their ears, and their hearts have become calloused. Nothing can penetrate. And so they're doomed for destruction. His other title is Al-Hayam, and he was there in the beginning as well as the Word. Let's look at Bara'ashayath, chapter 1, verse 26. And Al-Hayam said, let us make man in our image. Make man in our image after our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Allah-Hayam created man in his own image. In the image of Allah-Hayam, he created he him. Male and female created he them. We know that the us spoken of here is Yahawah and Hamashiach, as they have a likeness, whereas Ruach HaKadash has never been depicted having a bodily form like a man, although we know that he is a he, contrary to many false teachings out there. Now let's go back to Bara'ashayath chapter 1 verse 26, and Al-Hayam said, let us. Who are the us that he is speaking of? He's not talking to the angels. He's talking, and Al-Hayam there is plural. So when he said us, he is speaking to his son. All right? We can even include Ruach HaKadash because Ruach HaKadash is a spirit. And when he spoke our creation, when he spoke the creation of man and woman, male and female, male and female first, then man and woman later, he was creating the essence of who they are, who Adam and Hawa were, the essence. They were made in the image after their likeness because they are spirit. All three of them, Father, Son, and Ruach HaKadosh, they're all in a spiritual form at this point of time. So when he created man in his own image, remember verse 27, Al-Hayam is plural. Don't let that his, which is singular male pronoun, confuse you. They created male and female in their likeness after their own image. When we go to the Garden of Eden, actually, they were not created in the Garden of Eden. Adam was created outside of the Garden of Eden in a place called Elda, where he formed man out of the ground. That is the soul of man. He breathed into this physical body that he created, and man became a living, breathing soul. And that soul is what it within the soul we have the likeness and the image of Yahweh. So Adam and Hawa, there were two layers to who they were. And we're going to understand more about this later on in this study. All right? But know this. The very first thing that Allah Hayam did was to make them exactly as He is. And their purpose was to have dominion over the fish, the fowls, the cattle, the whole earth, all the creeping things. They were supposed to have dominion here on the earth. And the earth is physical. So He did not want to bring a spiritual body to dwell on a physical earth. But what He did is He made a physical body that enveloped the spirit of who they are, the essence of who they are, so that they can now be both physical and spiritual. All right? Let's look at Yohanan chapter 1, the book of John chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Allah Hayam, and the Word was Allah Hayam. The same was in the beginning with Allah Hayam. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. Who are they talking about? Who is Yohanan speaking of here? He's speaking of Hamashiach. He's speaking of Yahawah or Hamashiach. He is the Word that was made flesh. He is Allah Hayam. And all things were made by Him. And anything and not anything made that was made. He was the one who made them all. Let's read these words again. They are so pertinent for us to understand. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Allah Hayam. That would be Allah Hayam Yahawah, Allah Hayam Ruach HaKadosh. And the Word was also Allah Hayam. The same Word that was Allah Hayam was in the beginning with Allah Hayam Yahawah, Allah Hayam Ruach HaKadosh. All things were made by Him. Who? The Word that was Allah Hayam, that was with Allah Hayam. And without Him was not anything made that was made. So He was also a part of the creation. He was the creation process, the making, the creating of the creation. I have to explain it myself clearly. In these three verses alone, we have all the proof we need to understand that Hamashiach was there in the beginning with Ha'aba and Ruach HaKadosh. And He had an active part in creating the heavens and the earth and everything therein. When Allah Hayam Yahawah spoke the words of creation, it was through Hamashiach that these words were uttered and also performed. Hence the reason why He is also called the Word that was made flesh. Yohanan chapter 1 verse 14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. Who are the us that He's speaking of? Man. And let's get more specific. The southern kingdom. Yohanan was from the southern kingdom. And we beheld His glory. the glory as of the only begotten of her Abba, full of grace and truth. A lot of people get all tangled up, and this is what I was going to speak of, Ruach HaKadosh and Hamashiach. They get all tangled up because they think, okay, well, first of all, we don't believe in the triune Godhead. That's what they call them. Because the pagans out there, they have their Trinity. That's the better word. They have the Trinity. You have a father, you have a son, and you have a female goddess. Well, a goddess is a female god, right? The goddess. So you have God, the goddess, and the son. That's pagan. So naturally, some of our people believe that Hamashiach is the son. Ha'aba, Yahawah is Ha'aba, he's the father. So Ruach HaKadosh will have to be female. I've never heard such utter nonsense in all the days I've been alive. Read the words in the book for yourself. Hamashiach called him a he. They do not exist like the family you see here on the earth. On the earth, you have a husband and a wife, and you have the son. When they come together. That's the family unit. Yes, of course, we need the woman, the wife, because she is the one who brings forth the children. And this is called procreation. So that the man that Allah Hayam, the man and woman that Allah Hayam had made, will continue to reproduce and be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. But that's not the same with Ha'aba, Haban, and Ruach HaKadosh. They're all males. Ruach HaKadosh is not a female. He is a he. Anyone teaching you otherwise, run for the hills. Hamashiach was born of a woman. That's how the word became flesh. The word was made flesh because he came through a vessel called Maryam. But before that, he existed as the Son. But now he is begotten of Ha'aba because Ha'aba placed him in the womb of Maryam as an embryo. Hamashiach does not have any portion of Maryam in him. She was just a vessel, a human vessel through which Hamashiach had to come through to enter into our dimension, to be made like us, so that he can do the duty that he came to do, he was sent to do, which is to activate the redemption plan through his death and resurrection. Don't let these foolish ones out there lead you astray into pagan worship. When you start believing this utter nonsense, you see, they don't understand the dynamics surrounding Ha'aba, Haban, the son, and Ruach HaKadosh. So they make it up as they go along. They go to mystery books and they learn what they can from mystery books. All pagan nonsense. Utter nonsense. And he's full of grace and truth because grace was released when he died and rose again, and so was truth. That truth is our light. It's what lights us in this dark world, this world of darkness. We were sitting on in darkness until the light came. Therefore, it is clear that Hamashiach is also Alahayah, contrary to some teachings out there that say otherwise. It is a title that is shared between him, Ha'aba, and Harawak, because they were in the beginning and they each played their role in the creation, making the creation. To properly understand how they work together, Ha'aba is the creator who speaks his will. Rawak HaKadash primes the canvas, so to speak, moving upon the spoken word of Yahawah. But the actual manifestation of the word, the spoken word from Yahawah, comes through Hamashiach. This is how they all work together. Alahayah means ascended glory, and this fully describes who they are. When we do a study about Hamashiach, we will look into this once again. We will look into Alahayah, the title. We want to look more at the likeness of Yahawah to show how the prophets and his servants describe his appearance. So let's go now to the Apocrypha, the Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 17, verse 1. While he was still speaking, the fire coming toward us surrounded us, and there was a voice amidst the fire, like a voice of many waters, like the sound of a violent sea. And I wanted to fall down and worship, and the angel knelt down with me and worshipped. However, the surface of the high place where we were standing changed constantly, inclining, rolling high and low. So to give you a little bit of context with these verses here, this was the time when Abraham, and you will find this in Bara'ath, this is Bara'ath Shayath, the book of Genesis chapter 15, when Abraham was told to sacrifice these 3 items, and then he went into a vision, right? The vision about the 400 years and the 4th generation, that vision. All right? Now, the Apocalypse of Abraham helps us to understand exactly what took place and how he received this vision and what he saw in this vision. Okay? So now let's look at Apocalypse of Abraham chapter 18 verse 1. While I was still reciting the song, the mouth of the fire on the surface rose high in the air, and I heard a voice like a roaring sea. It was not stopped by even the plethora of fire, and as the fire rose up very high, I saw under the fire a throne of fire. Around it were many eyes watching. They were the all-seeing ones, and they were singing their song. Under the throne were 4 radiant living ones singing, but they looked as if they were one creature, but each had 4 faces. And this is how they appeared and how they looked to me. Each one had the face of a lion, a man, an ox, and an eagle. And because of their foreheads upon their bodies, they had 16 faces. So they had 4 heads upon their bodies. So there are 4 bodies, 4 heads, but each head had 4 faces. All right? Each one had 3 pairs of wings coming out of their shoulders, their sides, and their hips. With the wings from their hips, they covered their feet. The 2 middle wings were spread out, and they flew erect as if standing up straight. And while I stood alone and watched, I saw a chariot with wheels of fire behind the living ones. Each wheel had eyes around it, and it was full of eyes. Above the wheels was the throne which I had seen before. It was covered with fire, and the fire encircled it. An indescribable fire contained a mighty fiery host, and I heard its holy voice like the voice of a man. So, what Abraham was seeing here is also described in the book of Yahazakaal. You have the wheels with eyes all around, wheels within the wheels. That's a type of an angel. It's called an ophanim. And then you have the angels with the four faces. That's the cherubim. And you also have the seraphim, which is also described, which is described in the book of Isaiah, Yashaoya. Now, I may do a study on these angels because these particular ones, they often named the seraphim and the cherubim, they are closely connected to the throne and the throne room, and to the presence of Allah Yahawah. All right. I think it is, you know, a strong possibility that I will do this study because it really does help us to understand more of Allah and how he, like, what occurs in the throne room, what occurs when there's movement, all right, when there's speech. These angels all play a role in all that when it comes to Yahweh. All right. Now, the apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 19, verse 1. And a voice came to me out of the middle of the fire, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I answered, saying, Here I am. Now, I didn't want to go any further because I just wanted for you to see that out of the middle of the fire, Allah speaks. And we're going to see that in more scriptures from the Bible. All right? So when I do the study on angels, we will look more at these particular ones and learn more about their functions in the throne room. We see a similar description of Yahweh and the cherubim by the prophet Yahazakaal. Yahazakaal chapter 1, that's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Chabar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of Allah. Drop down to verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, and a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, meaning they had the form somewhat of a man. And everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Now remember where we saw this burnished brass before, this brass that looked like it was burned in a furnace? That was the description of Hamashiach in all his glory. We will return to these 4 living creatures in the next study as they play a major role in how Allah Yahweh communicated with his people. So that would be in part 3, because in part 2 we're going to look at the character of Yahweh, and that is a big study of its own. All right. So in part 3, we're going to see how he communicates with his people, how he communicated in the past, and how he is communicating with us today. Now, the only difference between Abraham's description and Yahazakaal's description of these cherubim were the number of wings that they had. In Abraham's vision, he saw 6 wings, while Yahazakaal saw 4 wings. Now, technically, the seraphim are the ones with 6 wings, and the cherubim are the ones that have 4 wings. And we saw examples of this with the Ark of the Covenant. Upon the mercy seat, there are 2 cherubim, and they both have 2 pairs of wings each. All right? Which would be 4 wings in total, right? 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So, whether this could be a discrepancy due to man's error in translating the text, or it was an intentional error to mislead us, as they have done with our scriptures, well, it doesn't really matter, because we know the truth. Regardless of how many wings, we identify these angels as cherubim, each having 4 faces, and they are always seen beneath the throne, in the throne room, or beneath the presence of Yahawah, as in the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. This is their position. The seraphim is always seen above the throne. Lucifer was a seraphim. All right? So he was above the throne. Maybe that was what led him to believe that he was superior to Allah Hayam Yahawah. Who knows? But he fell from that position forever. Yahazakaal chapter 1, the book of Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 21. And above the firmament, let me read that again. Yahazakaal chapter 1, verse 26. And above the firmament that was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness as the appearance of a man above it. And I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire, round about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw, as it were, the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about it. So what Yahazakaal was seeing was the form of a man, but no features of a man, only fire. So this form was filled with fire from the loins up, from the loins down. And then there was brightness as well. Verse 28. As the appearance of the bow, that's the rainbow, that is in the cloud in the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. So round about him, Yahawah, he has this rainbow. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of Yahawah. And when I saw him, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spoke. So this is the difference between Hamashiach and Yahawah. Yahawah, when he was seen by the prophets, he has, and when they see him having a form of a man, because he's not always having a form of a man, sometimes he's just fire. But when he shows them, reveals himself to them in the form of a man, he is also showing them that this form is filled with fire. Daniel saw hair like wool, and even a robe a garment that was whiter than snow, or as white as snow, but it was brilliant, brilliantly white. But when it comes to features now, actual features, you will not see them describing his eyes like fire like they describe Hamashiach. All right? So this is the difference between Yahawah, who is glory of itself. He is glory, and Hamashiach. The likeness of Allah Hayam Yahawah has always been compared to fire, which is glory, the very essence of who he is. He is revealed as a fire which sometimes has no similitude, meaning no form. So you can't compare him to something that you're familiar with the exception of the time when he shows himself having the form of man. The form of a man. And sometimes you are seen having the form of a man, but filled with fire, which is his glory. Let's look at Deuteronomy, that is the Barayam chapter 4, verse 11. And you came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spoke unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude, meaning no form, only you heard a voice. Let's drop down to verse 15. Take you therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spoke unto you in Horeb, out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male and female. Why? Because they were created. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. Unless you lift up your eyes unto heaven, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shall be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh Allah Hayak, that's your Allah Hayam personal, had divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. So here, Masha was warning the 12 tribes of Yahshua, don't even try to recreate an image of who he is. Don't create anything that looks like a beast that is on the earth, the likeness of a fowl in the air, a fish in the sea, or anything that creeps on the ground. Don't even try to make him in the image of a man or a woman. Because you saw fire and you heard the voice coming out of the fire. That's who he is. I know a lot of our brethren, you go on their channel and you want to represent an image of Hamashiach, and you have this old dark-skinned man with blood red eyes and this white afro and white beard. That's not who he is. That's not what Hamashiach looks like. And they do the same thing for Yahweh. And they're disobeying this command that Masha told them. He said, verse 16, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image. That's exactly what they have done. Made a graven image. The similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female. That's exactly what they did. And they're still doing it. All right. First of all, fire in your eyes is not bloodshot eyes. All right. Not bloodshot eyes. His eyes were shining with brightness. Not blood, not red like someone who's been drinking and wake up the next morning all hungover. No. Stop it. Stop trying to represent an image of Hamashiach or Yahweh. Stop it. You're fallen into pagan worship. All right? Leave that for the heathens out there. Let them go and create their own gods by the works of their hands. Elohim has given that to them, not for us. And for the record, we see that when Yasha'al, the 12 tribes of Yasha'al, were being led in the wilderness for 40 years, they were led by a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. That is the glory of Yahweh that led them. He took no form. He was a pillar of fire, pillar of cloud. When Shalawam, who is Solomon, was dedicating the temple, Yahweh came down like a cloud. That's also his glory. That's also who he is. He presents himself in however form, whatever form he chooses. This weighted cloud that the priest couldn't even stand up. Every time you come into the presence of Yahweh, when his glory is before us, all you want to do is fall on your face. Just read what happened to Abraham, Yahazakal, sorry. They wanted to fall on their faces. Yochanan, he fell as if dead before Hamashiach. And this is the same Yochanan that would lay his head on Hamashiach's bosom, on his chest. And yet when he saw him glorified, he passed out. All right, let's read on. What we are to understand is that unlike the gods that the nations around us worship, which are either carved, chiseled, or drawn, our Yahweh cannot be compared to anything created, as he is the creator of all. The gods that you see these nations worshiping were created by him. And before they were fallen, and they are the fallen angels, before they were fallen, they were his angels that he created. His likeness is that of a man because he initially created man in his image and not the other way around. And even though he is seen as having a likeness of man, his being is still filled with indescribable fire, which is his glory, and no description of any particular features like a man except here, like what? Daniel chapter 7 verse 9. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Fire is always described when these prophets saw Yahweh. Yahazakaal chapter 8 verse 2. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire. From the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of my head, a lock of his hair. And how Ruach lifted me up between the earth and the heavens, and brought me in the visions of Allah Hayam to Yarwashalam, to the door of the inner gate that looked towards the north. So you see, he's showing him when it's time, he would show forth a image of a hand, and he saw the image of his hair. All right, but everything else that would cause him to look like you would see a man walking down the street, you don't see it in Yahawah. He has the shape of a man, but everything else is fire. Even his garment, white as snow, hair like wool. And that texture tells you who he really is when it comes to ethnicity. Adam and Hawa were created in his image, both spiritual and physical, right? So when he created them, male and female, he did not create them with straight hair. All right. I already went through that in the last study. All right, let's read on. Another major point that we must understand is that Yahweh is spirit in form, but he can change himself to appear as fire or the likeness of a man yet filled with fire. So his spirit form is actually fire. And he also can present himself like a cloud, like he is weighted clouds. And yet he can still show himself like the form of a man. But there's always fire around him, brightness, fire. But I believe that what happened with these prophets, right? Even the kind of fire, that was the closest thing on earth that they knew of, that they can describe what they had seen. All right? The closest thing that they could ever know. Remember, this was happening back in way back in those days when everything was simple. Life was simple. So the closest thing that they can describe the glory of Yahweh to is fire. Yochanan chapter 4 verse 22. Oh, and before I read this, I use the word spirit because I don't want to use ruach to confuse you when I'm speaking of Yahweh and when I'm speaking of Ruach HaKadosh. All right? But Yahweh is Ruach. All right? But I use the word spirit here instead. Yochanan chapter 4 verse 22. You worship, you know not what. We know who we worship, for salvation is of Yahweh. Now this is Hamashiach speaking to the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well. Verse 23. But the hour comes and now is when the true worshippers shall worship Ha'abba in spirit and in truth. For Ha'abba seeks such to worship him. Allah Hayam is spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So anyone that's trying to worship him any other way cannot and will not be able to reach or enter in to his presence, because that's the whole idea about worshiping him, to be able to enter into his presence. All right? And because Allah Hayam is purely spirit, the only way that we can worship him is to worship him in spirit and in truth. And when you are in the truth, you are led into the spiritual realm where he is. That's what Hamashiach is explaining to this woman. They were worshiping in a completely different way from what the people of Allah Hayam Yahawah is worshiping, was called to worship, how we are called to worship today. This is what makes us different from all other people. We are not in a religion. Yashwa'al is a people. And we worship Yahawah, who is spirit and he is creator of all. And he has given us rules, commandments, laws, statutes, judgments to help us to walk circumspectly in these same laws, so that we can enter into his presence. No, there is a gap between us and him. Why? Because of sin. Sin has corrupted us. We now have something called a sin nature that, unless it is somewhat hidden, it is impossible to enter into his presence. Why? Because fear steps in. Just like our forefathers, when they were in the wilderness, were too afraid to go up the mountain because idolatry was hiding in their hearts. It's the same thing with us today. So what Allah Hayam Yahawah did is to send his son to become the bridge between us and him, so that we can cross over into the spiritual realm where Yahawah is. How this has happened, what has happened, is when we believe in Hamashiach, what is given to us is his righteousness, the righteousness of the Son of Allah Hayam, who is Hamashiach. And that righteousness cloaks the sin nature within us, so that now the Father can look upon us, and when he does, he sees a reflection of his Son. And like the king that he is, we are now ushered into his presence, because now he welcomes us into his presence. Do you remember the story about Hadassah? They call her Esther, but Esther is a pagan goddess. That's Ishtar. When her uncle Mordecai told her about the decree that was passed, and he told her that she needs to go on, because she became the queen, right? And kings in those days, the queens couldn't just enter into the presence of the king unless they're invited, unless they're called. The king had called Vashti, that was his first wife. She refused to come because she was too busy partying with her friends, right? So he dismissed her, and he got a new wife by the name of Hadassah. All right? Hadassah was of the tribe of Yahawadah. And she was placed there to preserve the people of Allah Hayam. So she fasted for 3 days. She and her household fasted for 3 days, because she knew that she just could not barge right into the presence of this king, because he could have her head. So this fasting was to uh, win the favor of Al-Hayam Yahweh, have the favor of Al-Hayam Yahweh upon her, so that when she enter into the presence of this king, this earthly king, that he would not destroy her. And so said, so done. And when the day came and she went to present herself to the king, he could have said, "Who called you? I didn't call you." Off with her head. No, he saw her and he saw favor. His heart became soft towards her. That was the favor of Elohim that affected this king. All right. I believe it's Ahasuerus. I think that was his name, Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus or Ahasuerus, something like that. And he extended his staff. And when he does that, that means you're welcome. Come forward. Come to me. Right? That is his invitation for her to come into his presence. Now, that's the earthly king. Imagine Yahweh. You think you can just barge right in with your old filthy selves into the presence of Yahweh? No. You got to be welcomed in. He has to extend his staff to you, his scepter, to welcome you into his presence. And he does that when he sees the likeness of his son upon his people. When he sees the righteousness of his son upon his people. Now we can enter into his presence and worship him in spirit and in truth. Truth led us to this point, and now we are in the spiritual realm where we can pray to him, we can worship him, we can talk to him, and he talks to us. You think you can do it any other way without that bridge, without Hamashiach? You might be doing it, but it is not Yahweh you're speaking to. It's one of those demon gods, one of those familiar spirits. There's no other way to reach from where we are to where he is, where Yahweh is. But with Hamashiach, and we also have Ruach HaKodesh, they will help us to move from where we are and into the presence of Yahweh. All right. To get a clear understanding of this precept of who Yahweh is, we have to recognize that he is a spirit, distinctive from Ruach HaKodesh, and yet Ruach HaKodesh comes from him. When he is referred to as a spirit, we are to see that this is his form, a fiery form that can take a shape of a man, but without all the features of man. The prophets were unable to see any distinctive features like his eyes, his mouth, etc., because he is a spirit. That's all he wants us to understand. He's a spirit. Angels have distinctive forms. Hamashiach also has a distinctive form, and even Ruach HaKodesh takes the form, or he took the form of a dove, which is a distinctive form as well, but not Yahweh. Hamashiach, before he was born, he came upon the earth as he is referred to as the angel of Yahweh. That was his title. But he took the form of a man. He had the features of a man. He appeared to Abraham and to Sarah, all right, as a man. He appeared to Galawan, who is Gideon. I think I mispronounced his name, but it's Gideon, as the angel of Yahweh. But he looks like a man, just like the angels that came with Hamashiach. The two that went on to Sodom and Gomorrah, they looked like men. That's why the pagans there wanted to to burst into Lawat's place, to grab these two strangers and have their way with them, because they looked like men. All right? It is for this reason why we are told not to make any images of him to worship, as they cannot in any way properly and adequately match who he really is, meaning the images. And we're not supposed to have an image of Hamashiach either. Anything made to represent him will lead us to pagan worship and away from truly worshiping him. He made the commandments for us to obey, and the first few restrict us from doing as such, restrict us from making images of them. We're not supposed to be worshiping any image, not even, like how the Christians worship the cross. That's a pagan image anyway. But even if it was the correct instrument of death, we're not supposed and bowing down to it. I remember my days when I was in the church. I used to bow down before that thing, because we were led to believe that it was a sacred image. Shalawam chapter 20, that's the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 1. And Yahweh spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahawah YAHAWAH, who have brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make unto you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. You shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahawah YAHAWAH, am a jealous Elohim. He is Elohim Kana'ah, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahawah YAHAWAH in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. So taking his name in vain is to make it empty, to ruin his name. And our brethren do that all the time. Do it all the time. So these are the commandments that he gave to Masha to give to our forefathers. And they broke every single one of them when they started worshiping pagan gods. Because when you start worshiping pagan gods, when you start worshiping gods, period, you're led to break all the other gods, all the other rules, all the other laws. They will lead you to steal. They will lead you to lie. They will lead you to commit adultery. They will lead you to do all manner of wickedness, to be envious and jealous, and to murder. Because this is what these gods thrive on. The things that Al-Hayam told us not to do are the things that these gods, that these other nations worship, including Jesus Christ, would thrive on and become empowered. When you lie, it empowers them to have more control over you. When you commit adultery, it empowers them to have more control over you. All right? And what Al-Hayam is doing here with these laws is to sever their control over you. And he starts off by telling us not to have any other gods but him. Not to bow down, not to make any images of anything, to bow down and worship them. Because that's the first step in you breaking the rest of the laws that will give them, meaning the fallen angels that calls themselves gods, power over you. And that's why people keep talking about they can't seem to break their bad habits. They're going around in circles. They feel like they're on a Ferris wheel or something. They can't seem to break this cycle of of these whatever evil desires they have. Go back and see who you're worshiping. When you address who and what you're worshiping, then you got to start cleaning your house, your physical house. Remove every image. People got these unks, these modified unks, the cross, modified unks in their homes, on their hats, on their t-shirts. Whatever image that you have to represent the Most High, you need to burn it or burn them. And then you have to address the idolatry in your heart. Now, when you do those three things, now you need to repent and turn to Yahawah. And you will see how quickly those devils have to let go of you. But a lot of people, they love sin. Sin makes that flesh of theirs feel good. All right. A day is coming where he's going to say enough is enough. This is it. I've drawn the line, that proverbial line in the sand. And whoever is on my side, I'm coming to get them. Whoever is on the other side of that line will be destroyed. There'll be no excuses, no second chances. He's given us all the chances we need to have today. But again, the same gods that people are worshiping brings pride. And that pride would tell them to say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. Look at how many people are worshiping the same God. What's wrong with a name? What's wrong with calling this title? He knows my heart. He knows who I'm talking to. That's the most foolish thing I've ever heard. You have a friend named Billy. You're going to call Billy Charlie? No, you call him by the name he introduced himself to you as. Any other name is a wrong name. You can't say, well, Billy knows who I'm talking to. First of all, he's not even going to respond to you because you're calling him Charlie. You call him all kind of other names. How do you expect the person to know that you're talking to them? But it's rebellion and disobedience and pride that has come in and planted themselves. These are spirits, by the way, evil spirits, to whisper in your ears. You don't need anybody to tell you anything. You know the truth for yourself. Who do they think that they are? All these wicked words that they will speak into your ears to stop you from doing an about turn, because you've listened, you heard, and you are responded and repented. All right. When Adam and Hawa were first created, they were in a unique form where they were both fully spirit, meaning within. That's the image and the likeness of Yahawah and Hamashiach and Ruach HaKodesh. All right, that's who they are, the essence of who they are, spirit form, and fully physical. So they're housed by the soul which was formed from the ground. So when Allah Hayam created man from the ground, that was the soul that is now housing the spirit, the essence of who Allah Hayam is. It was for this reason why they were able to live in the Garden of Odan, as it too was both physical and spiritual, as it is the dwelling place of Yahweh, still in existence, but it's not here on the earth, who is spirit, but can also manifest himself in the physical realm. And this is why how Allah Hayam can manifest himself in the physical realm. This is where the angels come in. All right. The Garden of Odan was quite unique because it was both a physical place and a spiritual place. So he was there, right? He was there. But when he came down now on Mount Horeb, Mount Sinai, he came down with fire and clouds. There were angel activity, angelic activity going on there, but we can't see it with our eyes unless he allows us to see it. When Shalawam built the temple and he came down, Yahweh came down like a cloud. Again, it is the angelic activity that brings his presence to the earth. And we know this for a fact because when we go to the prophecies of Yahazakaal, who's Ezekiel, we see when he was removing his presence, talking about Yahweh, that's when Yahweh revealed to him, the prophet, these angels, the cherubim and the Ophanim, the wheels within a wheel, those are the Ophanim, and the cherubim, the ones that have 4 wings with 4 faces. All right, those are responsible for bringing the presence of Yahweh to the earth. All right, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a very interesting study when I get to it. I just need to finish the study first. Maybe I'll try to incorporate it into the next, I think, part 3 called how Yahweh communicates with his people. Maybe I'll be able to incorporate it in there. We'll see. So let's look at Bara'ashayah, the book of Genesis, chapter 3. I had to check to make sure that I finish reading in the sentences above. Bara'ashayah, chapter 3, verse 8. And they heard the voice of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim among the trees of the garden. And Yahweh, drop down to verse 9 now. No, it's actually verse 8. Now this is verse 9. And Yahweh Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, Ayaka. That is a very profound question. Ayaka, which means, where are you? Now, was Elohim not knowing where they were? He already knew that they were going to do this thing before he even created them. So let's read on. Verse 10. And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded that you should not eat? So there was only one conclusion at this point of time, that they disobeyed the one commandment that he gave to them when they were in the Garden of Odan. Do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. All the other trees you can eat of, even the tree of life, but do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. But they did not understand exactly what they were, uh, what they had until after they lost it. You see, they were already there. The tempter came and told them that you could be like gods, knowing both good and evil. This is what he's hiding from you. But they did not understand that they were already there. They were above the angels because they were created in the fullness of who Allah is. But they had a physical form. They looked like a man, and the other one looked like a woman, because they had a purpose on the earth. They were to procreate and make children. When they were, before they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were filled with the glory of Allah. They were so full of the glory that it exuded and formed a garment upon their bodies. And when they disobeyed Allah Yahawah, that glory then was shut off. And the garment, of course, disappeared. That light garment, because it was a garment made of glory, of light. That's why the angels trembled when they were before Adam and Hawa. But when that glory was shut off, it was because of disobedience. Because now they're naked, they're bare. And just like our forefathers when they were in the wilderness, when they tried to hide from the presence of Yahweh and sent Masha up to receive the commandments on their behalf, so you see it happening, first happening here with Adam and Hawa. When they were in harmony with Yahweh, walking in obedience, he would come and commune with them. There wasn't an issue of fear. When they disobeyed him, fear crept in, because now their image was changed. They're now marred in their image. They're no longer reflecting the glory that is before them. All right? And so they have to go and hide themselves amongst the other creation. We know that voices cannot walk, but this was a poetic way of showing us something deeply profound about Yahweh, that as a spirit, it will seem as though his voice was walking in the garden, which was him in his holy form, him in his spirit form. And he was able to do this because he created a garden to be his sanctuary, where he and his creation, Adam and Hawa, his children, can dwell together. All right? Adam and Hawa became afraid of him after they broke the one commandment he gave to them, causing a change to occur with them and their relationship with him. Before they disobeyed, Adam and Hawa enjoyed communing with Yahweh in the garden because they were made in his likeness. Disobedience now had caused something very significant to occur, which led them to be naked, because the glory that they once were draped in was gone. The glory within was shut off. The image now that they were created in became marred. That light went totally off. And then afterwards, we know that Yahweh covered them in what we call flesh. All right? And this flesh now is easily provoked, easily tempted by the sin nature that is now dwelling in all of us because of this exact situation that has occurred with the first man and the first woman. Sin entered in, and that is the corruption that we are waiting to for it to be restored, to be removed, actually, that corruption to be removed. But in the meantime, the righteousness of Hamashiach covers this mistake until the day we are gathered in his kingdom and we can wash in the sea of water, and the sin nature now is completely removed forever. And now we have been restored back to what or who Adam and Hawa were, but greater. We will have a greater glory. All right? So this is what we're waiting on. The glory that Adam and Hawa had was light, a garment that covered them, which emanated from within outward. And this is what we're waiting on. But in the meantime, Allah Hayam had put in place ways in which we can still recover a little bit of who he is through his son. Through his son. But once that glory was gone, it transformed them, for now their eyes could only see carnally, and no longer could their eyes behold the glory of Yahweh. And behold the glory of Yahweh. Full stop. That should be in full stop. Fear gripped them because of sin that had entered into them, marring their once perfect image from within and even outwards. And this fear was transferred to all born upon the earth, rightfully because of this wretched sin nature within which provokes us to sin. And that's why we need to keep on top of this flesh, this outer body that we have now. And the way we do that, we have to strengthen the spirit and the soul within. And how we do that? The word of Allah Hayam. Worship. Praying. Of course, we have to believe in Hamashiach first. And then everything else will fall into place. We have to put away all the pagan gods that we've been worshiping, that we've been taught to worship. And know who Yahweh is. And worship only him, because it starts with that. If you don't know who you're worshiping, you're going to fall into pagan worship. And it doesn't matter how much you fast and pray and praise and whatnot, you're still going to be doing all of that to the gods that you're worshiping. It starts with knowing who the Most High is. Because of this fear, man shrinks away from Allah Hayam Yahweh, because he is holy and his glory can destroy a man. And this is the reason why a lot of people turn away from Yahweh. Oh, that's not his name. I prefer Yahuwah. Why? Prove to me that Yahuwah could be his name when we had no use in our language. Where'd you get that idea from? You watch a few YouTube videos and you think, yeah, this is the truth. You haven't even done the research for yourself. You haven't done anything for yourself. Your people are just going by what others are saying. And because they see this person has 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers and all these viewers and whatnot, they think, okay, yes, this got to be the truth. And you know, another thing that will convince them that these people are speaking the truth when in fact they're speaking lies, is because of the lifestyle that you're leading. You're leading a wretched lifestyle, and these people, that what they're teaching does not even convict you. Because the minute you call on Yahweh, you're going to start feeling the conviction. When you start believing in Hamashiach, then the conviction is going to go deeper. All right. When Adam and, sorry, I read that already. Shalawam chapter 33, the book of Exodus chapter 33, verse 18. And he said, I beseech you, show me your glory. This is Masha. Now Masha was up the mountain in the presence of Yahweh, and yet he wanted him to show him the essence of who he is. He was there when the fire was burning the bush, but not really. But he wanted to see the essence of who Yahweh is. Verse 19, and he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim the name of Yahweh before you. I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious. I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. And he said, you cannot see my face, for there shall no man see me and live. And Yahweh said, behold, there is a place by me, and you shall stand upon a rock. And it shall come to pass while my glory passes by, that I will put you in a cleft of the rock. I will cover you with my hand while I pass by. And I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen. When we are regathered, and we wash in that sea of water, and eat from the tree of life, we will be able to see his face. All right? Masha wanted to see the glory of Yahweh, not just the fire he showed himself as upon Mount Sinai, but the very essence of who he is, his glory. But the glory of Yahweh cannot be viewed by man or woman. As we see what happened to Adam and Hawa when they sinned, what did they do? They went and hid themselves. The glory was in the garden looking for them. And where were they? Hiding. They became fearful because instinctively you know you're going to die if you encounter the glory of Al-Hayam Yahweh. Nevertheless, Al-Hayam Yahweh made a provision for those who will want to dwell in his presence today. Like Masha, who was placed in the cleft of the rock, which was a type of fissure, like a crack, was a type and shadow of his son, Hamashiach, who is our rock, in which we hide. He is also the rock upon which we stand. And yet Yahweh's hand covered to protect Masha as he passed by. In like manner, when we believe in his Son, it is standing on a rock, which is truth, and being enrobed in the righteousness of Hamashiach, which is like hiding in the cleft of the rock. And lastly, Yahweh covers to protect us, and at the same time reveals a small portion of himself, his glory. This is the evidence of which we seek after, to see the manifestations of Yahweh, which affirm our belief in him and strengthen our faith in him. This is what we live for, to taste a tiny portion of his glory every time we enter into his presence, because it reaffirms that yes, he exists. He is real. The devils are out there talking about there's no such thing as, the Most High. There's not this. Oh, but you can go and worship a rock. They want you to go worship a cow or a monkey or something. All right. But the Most High Yahweh, they will try to steer you away from Him because they know that with Him on our side, they have no power over us. They have to release us, which will become a big problem for them. Now we know who Al-Hayam Yahweh is. He is fire and He is glory. His glory is represented to us as fire. All right? He presented himself to his people in the likeness of a man filled with fire and brightness. He has no particular features like we do, but his image in which Adam and Hawa were created in is today covered in flesh. And so are we today. There will come a day when this flesh body will be transformed to be greater than what they had, because we are choosing to worship Yahweh as He is, in spirit and in truth. And that's why we see an example of what we will become in Hamashiach. After He died and He rose again the third day, His body now has taken on that flesh that He once was, has taken on a totally different quality. And this is exactly how we will be. And this transformation into His image, which is going to be permanent, will not come until we are first regathered. But until then, we have to learn to abide in the rock of our salvation, who is Hamashiach. All right? The Most High knows what is coming down the pike in the next little while. We're hearing escalations of wars, rumors of wars, and all manner of wickedness. All right? All manner of wickedness that you can't even think of is being put out there to trigger fear, uncertainty, anxiety. But those people, those of us who are standing on the rock, in the cleft of the rock, and covered by the hand of Yahweh, we will not fear, because our only focus now is the glory of Yahweh. That's our focus. Our focus is getting ourselves ready so that we can be regathered and be with Him for eternity. And He is coming. In fact, let me just rephrase that. He is sending His Son in the clouds to regather the southern kingdom. Those are the ones that are awakened today. His people that are awakened by Him today. Not all are awakened to the truth. And that's why He says in His word, only a remnant will be saved. And that's why when He regathers us, He is not going to regather any rebels because of where He is taking us. He's taking us back to the garden, the southern kingdom. We are going to be taken up in chariots into the garden of Odan, where He is. So do you think He's going to bring rebels up there with Him to see Him? No. They will be destroyed here on the earth. Why? He has given us all the opportunities we could ever want and need to get ourselves right. And now judgment will finalize who will go and who will be destroyed. And that's why I'm doing these studies, to help you to understand where you stand. All right? There's no second chance for the southern kingdom once that curtain is closed. We can't hook up with the northern kingdom and go into the wilderness with them. No. Once he is finished judging the southern kingdom, those that are found in the righteousness of his son, those that are covered in the righteousness of his son, will be regathered. And those who are not will be destroyed off the face of this earth. They will just disappear. People wouldn't know what had happened to them. What have happened to them hasn't happened yet. But the earth will swallow them up. All right? This is what's coming. Warning you. All right, let's end with the blessing for Yahawah, taken from Bal chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. That's the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahawah wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahawah panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahawah panayo alayak wa yasham lak Shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now we're going to recite the command from Yahweh that we're to recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, and when we come in, taken from the Barayam chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al, Yahawah Alahayana, Yahawah Ahad, wa Ahabath Ath, Yahawah Alahayak, Bakal Babak, wa Bakal Napashat, wa Bakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahawah our Alahayam is one Yahawah. And you shall love Yahawah your Alahayam with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And with that I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam. All praises to the Most High. Abba Yah.